Hello, and I'd like to introduce you to my new cider press. Well, new to me. This is a Keystone Manufacturing from Sterling, Illinois, cider press. This press dates back to a patent date of 1874 and 1875. My guess is it was actually manufactured sometime before the 20th century. This is a cast iron cider press. When I received it, it was a basket case. It was very rusted, all rusted together. Nothing moved. There was no wood. All I had were the cast iron components. The cast iron is so rusted, it was so rusted that it's pitted. And you can see the pitting texture on this iron. If you even look at the gears, you can see all that pitting on the gears. But luckily for me, that pitting is very consistent throughout the machine. Even on the flywheel and on the press screw and on the yoke. So I like it. I think it adds character. It shows what this piece really is, which is a very old cast iron farm implement. It cleaned up well, de-rusted well, bright, shiny new cast iron, new paint. The wood is all brand new. I did find an advertisement of the Keystone Cider Press. And from that advertisement drawing, I was able to extrapolate a few dimensions, and then I used my imagination and my furniture building experience, and this is what I came up with. It's all white oak, using traditional furniture joinery. For instance, 90-degree components are joined with a mortise and tenon joint. Back leg assembly has what's called a housed mortise and tenon joint. So the housing, this piece is inset into the leg, and then the mortise and tenon joint is in here. So this joinery provides a lot of structural integrity to the machine. The mill frame, which is this part here, this horizontal frame, is connected with or joined with dovetail joinery on the ends, mortise and tenon joinery for the cross members, as is the bottom frame, dovetailed together on the front and back. Here is the front leg assembly. Again, a housed mortise and tenon joint. There are two stretchers that go from the front of the machine across to the back, mortise and tenon joinery. If we come around to the front of the machine, we can see the same features, dovetailed tray. The mill frame comes to the front and is connected under the yoke with a tapped 5/8 inch screw tapped into the bottom of the yoke. The yoke is inset into the top of the leg and held in place with stainless steel screws that I put a black patina on so they blend in nice with the rest of the press. This press is very heavy. Keystone made several different models, and this, I think, was one of their bigger ones. It's very robust. This Acme screw is 2 inches in diameter. Other models are 1.5 inches and maybe even 1 inch. This is a very robust unit. I don't know the actual model number, but other ones I have seen are smaller. Most of the big stuff or all of the big parts and components came with this. There were a few small pieces missing. There was one picture I saw online. There were some decorative bolt pieces. There is some cast iron parts here that hold this housing down to the frame. Those were missing. I have one. So I made this clamp here that clamps the housing down to the mill frame, front and back. Other than that, everything was with this machine. I did have to fabricate something, however, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But let's start with this handle. I did fabricate this handle. When you turn the handle, of course, it rotates and puts everything into motion. But when you let go of the handle, it dangles below while the machine continues to rotate. And that is done with a bicycle component. Within this machined housing here is a single speed freewheel for a bicycle. Listen, you can hear it. You can go backwards just like you can on a bicycle. But if you pedal forward, then you go. And the best thing is when you let go of that handle, it does not keep rotating. So nobody's gonna get hit in the head or hit in the jaw with a rotating handle. So with the machine moving, the gears in motion, it turns that shaft. This gear turns that gear, which turns that shaft. And that shaft is very shiny. That's one of the parts that I had to fabricate. And so if we look down into the hopper, what we have here is a stainless drum with 3 paddles on it. And that is a chopper. That chops the apples coarsely. Those coarse chopped apples fall down into these 2 rolling mills. These mills have a gap that you can dial in, and then the chopped apples fall through that mill and create pumice, and that pumice then falls into your basket to later be pressed. Here's the original paddle wheel, and you can see what a mess it is. There's broken parts. These are all loose. It's really a mess, and I didn't want to use that, so a buddy made me a new one out of stainless steel. So let me get some speed going here, and you can see how this thing works. It's all lubricated with mineral oil. You can see with just a few cranks, there's a lot of torque in there, and that flywheel keeps everything moving. You see that chopper rolling, and then underneath, the mills move at different speeds and make the apple chunks into pumice. These mills, I'm gonna roll slow, maybe you can see, but they are pretty beat up as well. I mean, if the machine, you see right there, see how that's worn out? If these 2 mills are not dialed in correctly and set correctly, they will rub on each other. And you'll hear that a lot on videos of people using their cider press. You'll hear those mills rubbing on each other. And that's what you get right there. So you got to dial them in, create a gap. You might have to play around with your gears and components, put a spacer or something in place, get your stops set right so that you don't wear out your milling drums. So this is a Keystone Manufacturing cider mill, patented in 1874 and 1875, and resurrected in 2021 by the Urban Hobbit. That's me. Thank you for looking. Good night.